with that having been said, let's bring on our special guest for today, Brew Party's own and a good friend of the program, Andy Hopper. Andy, what's good, my man?
Hank, thank you so much for having me, dude. I'm so happy that I could finally get on the show. I know we've been working on this for a long time, but I think I need a jacket or a t-shirt or something for Review and Preview 5-Timers Club. Like, come on, every show I've been on. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to bitch and moan and complain about the Cardinals.
Yeah, no, congratulations on being the first guy to ever appear on every single Review and Preview show. Andy, welcome aboard. It's great to have you as always. And before we get to the Cardinals, we have a comment, and it's another good friend of the program, Sam Cardona. Sam, how's it going? Thanks for checking in.
Sam, remember, how are you?
As always, if you want to interact with us, please keep up the comments below. We really love and appreciate it. It makes you guys a part of this show too. And Andy, first of all, to start off, you're from Champaign, Illinois. I believe that's like right smack in the middle between St. Louis and Chicago. But
yes, sir.
The Cardinals. I got to ask. I don't think I've ever asked you that before, actually.
Okay, so I was originally born in Springfield, which is the state capital of Illinois, which is literally like an hour and 20 minutes away from St. Louis. My family is like split down the middle, Cardinals, Cubs, like diehard. So my grandfather, who, is one person that I really grew up, on baseball, or, helped me grow up with baseball, take me to games and stuff. He's a diehard Cub fan. Wow. But my parents got divorced when I was, I think, 5, super young. So when I moved to Champaign, when I was 7 or 8, my stepfather is a huge Cardinal fan. And that's just what was always on in the house. And I kind of I just grew up watching the Cardinals. And then, when my dad, he still lived in Springfield, he's just a baseball fan. He likes the Cardinals. He'll likes the Cubs, whichever one. He'll root for whatever. He just wants to see a good game. But it always stuck with me because we would meet halfway when we would go to his house to, like, with my mom or whatever, in a little town called Decatur, which is halfway between Champaign and Springfield. And whenever we'd be in the car, it'd be during the summer, he'd have on a baseball game. It didn't matter if it was the Cardinals. It didn't matter if it was the Cubs. But that always stuck with me was, the radio voices and just baseball. But yeah, it's always been big in my family, either way, Cubs, Cardinals. And I don't hate the Cubs. They're hard to hate just because, they've only won a couple times, and their fans are very easy to hate. Don't get me wrong. But as far as the team goes, but yeah, that's kind of why I chose the Cardinals. And I mean, it definitely speaks to, they were just the better team. My stepdad literally always had them on TV. And then I just always remember listening to them on the radio too. So, yeah, that's kind of why. And then, it was Pujols, Renteria, right. They had Scott Rowland, and that whole crew is the first Cardinals team that I really, really remember. And then of course you remember all the Cardinals legends you throw out, Ryan Ludwig, Pete Kozma, David Eckstein, Colby Rasmus. But
those are blasts from the past, man. I remember those guys.
So Taguchi. But yeah, dude, I just love baseball. I think that's my favorite sport to go watch and like consume in person. I think it's just go have a beer and just watch a good game, man.
I totally agree with you. Baseball is just one of the more relatable sports I can think of. And honestly, I think it might be my favorite just for the sheer fact that, one, it's like so relaxing to watch. It's a nice summer day. And also not to mention the fact that, like, it was the first sport that really got me into this whole crazy experience of memorizing stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, baseball is one of the best for sure. And anyways, let's get to the Cardinals. First of all, I think if we're going to start talking about the Cardinals, we might as well talk about the big name acquisition they got during the offseason, Nolan Arenado. I mean, the thing that shocked me was that they were able to get him for basically a bag of chips, I guess. Like, Colorado they wanted to get rid of him. Like, let's put it that way. And I know, don't get me wrong, that contract is going to be ugly down the line. Let's not kid ourselves. But for them to get him, and with his performance, let's talk about the impact he's had on this team so far.
So, first of all, we'll do my first hat change.
Oh, boy.
gonna throw on my Rockies hat as a thank you for letting us fucking steal him from you. No diss to Austin Gomber. I really liked watching him as a Cardinal. He came up as a Cardinal, but I mean, we stole this guy from the Rockies. They wanted him. Like you said, they wanted him gone for some reason. They're still paying some of his contract. But I mean, let's talk about what he's done for this team. He's leading in batting average at 288 in home runs and RBIs. He's got 10 home runs, 32 RBIs. He's the straw that stirs this drink on offense. I mean, you have him and you have Goldschmidt. I mean, Goldie at 255 with only 6 homers and 26 RBIs. But, I mean, he's a legit threat in the 3-hole that you have to be.
The Rockies while he's down, by the way. Sorry to interrupt, but continue.
No problem. But so he's just – and then, I mean, you talk about what he brings offensively, but on the defense, I believe on the defensive side, he lays out for balls at the hot corner. I mean, in my opinion, he's the best third baseman in the National League, but I mean, that's coming from a biased Cardinals fan, but the impact he's had has been terrific. I think if we don't have Nolan Arenado on this team, there's no way they're sitting at 27-22 and in first place in this division.
Yeah, I completely agree with that assessment, especially now when you look at how the whole, I said this with the Yankees too, when talking about their injury situation, the foundation is starting to crack. Like, you're losing guys like Tyler O'Neill, recently Harrison Bader, and Dylan Carlson. The outfield situation's a mess. Like,
yeah,
don't get me wrong, the bullpen.
Bad.
I've looked at the bullpen too. It's pretty bad, but I think
I've got some thoughts on that.
Oh no, we'll get to that. But like, let's talk about the outfield. Like, how concerned are you about this outfield situation? Like, and how much of this, with the lack of depth they have right now, how much of this do you blame on what's his name? I don't know how you pronounce it. Is it Mozeliak?
Fuck John Mozeliak. I'm sorry. I'll try to keep this as I'll try to stop cussing, but he's just, good for him for finally getting Arenado. Like we just mentioned, like, it was awesome, but it's like 3 years after he could have been able to, or at least it seems like he would have been able to. Mozeliak likes to trade away our outfielders, but then we just kind of really been hit by the injury bug. I believe actually Tyler O'Neill's supposed to be back tonight for this game versus Arizona. So he hurt his finger sliding into second base on a steal attempt against the Padres, and it really hurt because at the time he left, he was hitting 290, and he's, he won a Gold Glove last year. He's a big part of this outfield. He kind of won that spot, in that trade. He comes over from Seattle when he was just a prospect, and he needs to be there. And Dylan Carlson, we're super, super high on him. That's why we got rid of a couple guys. He won this spot, had to miss a couple games last week with a sore back, and then I think he still had to come back out after returning, which isn't great. And then Harrison Bader, he's diving for a shallow fly ball and he hurts his ribs. Harrison Bader, I've said it for a long time, and last year, like, he's going to struggle at the plate. He's not going to be the best hitter, but he's so fucking fast that it makes up for it. It's just like, he is the flash out there. He will get to balls in center field that, like, 80 or 90% of center fielders are not going to be able to, just out of sheer speed. And then if he can't ever figure out the bat, like, he's going to be pretty dangerous. But it hurts. I mean, he's a lot. Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, and Harrison Bader are a lot better than Lane Thomas and Justin Williams out there. So, and that's I'm not trying to disparage those guys, but I don't know if those guys are MLB outfielders, everyday outfielders, or they're just not ready at this point. I mean, Justin Williams, though, he did throw a laser to throw at Adam Eaton the other day from left field. So I will give him a shout out on that. But yeah, I'm very troubled by that. I don't love the injuries in the outfield, and definitely the lack of depth scares me, because, you think about a year or two ago, who do we put in the outfield? You're either throwing Fowler on the bench, or you're throwing Jose Martinez on the bench. Obviously, those guys are both gone, and they went with the younger core, which you can't really blame them for that. Another guy we haven't mentioned is Tommy Edman.
Right. The ultimate. I was going to ask you a question about him too.
The ultimate utility guy. If needed, you throw him out there in right. I mean, even I'm comfortable with Tommy Edman in center if you really need to.
Sure.
And then, I mean, it all depends on, Paul DeYoung's health in the infield, because right now he's out and you have Edmundo Sosa at the shortstop position. So if DeYoung gets healthy, but the outfield's still struggling, do you put Sosa or DeYoung at second and then throw Edman in that third outfield spot? I think that's the way they'll go. But I mean, Tommy Edman is I mean, we saw him 2 solo home runs in the game last night, I believe it was, against the White Sox, to steal one. They're 4 of 6 in their last 10, which really isn't great. But yeah, I had in my notes here, I had outfield banged up, Bader and Carlson, and then talked about Tyler O'Neill, but it's troubling. So they need to get healthy before anything. I'm honestly shocked that they're 27 and 22 and in first place with everything that they've kind of had to deal with this season so far.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Now, I'm glad you mentioned Tommy Edman, because we got to talk about the versatility of him. Is it not a stretch to say that he's quietly been one of the most important guys in your lineup, and maybe you could even argue he's the most indispensable guy in that lineup? Because let's face it, your outfield, like we said, it's pretty much borderline in shambles, if that's an exaggeration. And I'll tell you another good thing about Edman too, that hasn't really been talked about. I think you guys may have made the right decision by letting Long leave and go to Milwaukee, because look at what Milwaukee played him, like 2 years, $18 million. Like, you're getting a lot less. You're giving a lot less money to Edman, and he's done a really good job, and then some, replacing him at second base. I think that's a steal, if anything.
So,
and not to mention, I forgot to mention too, if not for letting Wong go, also helped you get Nolan Arenado, another.
Absolutely. And so it's like you take it with a grain of salt, but I was a big Colt Wong fan. He just and he's another guy where you're not really sure what you're going to get at the plate, but he is an elite defender. Like, nothing gets by him. He's all damn near a platinum glove. I don't think he got a platinum glove, but gold glover. So it really did hurt. I hate to see him go, and especially to see him go to a division rival in Milwaukee. But if we just look at what Edman's done, he's leading the team in hits with 56. He's played every game this year. He has the most at bats. He's hitting 275. He's still stolen 9 bases, 14 RBIs, 4 home runs. So, I mean, yeah, I think you nailed it on the head there, Hank. I can't disagree with you that as of right now, it's looking like they made the right choice. And as far as me going, it's probably more of like a nostalgic fan, just being like, oh, we watched Colton Wong for a long time, another guy that had only been a Cardinal for his whole career. So it's just always weird to see those guys go. And I mean, I wish them all the best in Milwaukee, but I don't know. I don't think I would have hated having Colton Wong as another option in this infield, though. But I see it does open up a lot of different things for what they're trying to do in the outfield. And then Tommy Edman can play more of a natural position at second base. I know we just said he's literally like a Swiss Army knife. You can really put him anywhere. But I think traditionally he is like third base, second base. Like, he's an infielder.
And I see Tom just posted a question here. Dylan Carlson is a great outfielder. How's his health holding up?
Not great at the moment. So, like I think we mentioned earlier, Carlson, so his sore back, he missed a couple games. I think he missed 2 games against the first 2 games against the White Sox, was able to come back for the last game, but I think he left early. So, he's great. He's going to be really, really good if he can stay healthy. So as of right now, his back is not doing great. I think maybe you just put him on the 10-day and give him some rest and kind of just wait till he's 100%. Because he's at the point where it's like, yeah, we want you out there, but if we're like as good as we think we are, if we're like leading the division, we're going to need you in October. We're going to need you in September leading up to the playoffs. Let's rest you now, in June, or is it? No, it's whatever, in May, June, whatever. As when we can,
going by pretty fast, I feel
when we can get away with it. So, I mean, I'd love to have Carlson out there. I'm really excited about his future, but as of right now, health has not been the best.
Sure. And another guy in the lineup I think we need to talk about before we move on to the main thing that I was going to let you rant about, the bullpen. You got to talk about Paul Goldschmidt for a bit. I know he hasn't quite lived up to what you guys have been expecting of him. Do you think he's going to start to heat up over the course of the season?
I mean, I hope so. I don't love the 255. I think it's hard to hate on a guy for how many home runs they hit,
right?
Because you just never know. And then, believe he's second on the team with 26 RBIs. So, like I said, it's him and Arenado. It's like, who else are you really supposed to be scared of now? Now that you get Tyler O'Neill back, yes, actually, Yadier Molina's hitting like 280 something. He's had a great year at the plate, but he's another guy that's hurt right now. So Goldie, he gives us like stability at first. Like he's not going to make mistakes. But yeah, I do hope he gets hot. But let's remember he's on the wrong side of 30. Let's not act like the Cardinals got him when he's in the real prime of his career. I'm not saying like his best days are like really that far behind him, but he's not a super young guy. Do I think he can turn it on? Yeah. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Listen, I'm a Yankee fan. I know a thing or two about getting guys passed on the wrong side, like too long contracts. Cough, cough, Stanton. But I think now might be the time where we got to talk about the pitching and the bullpen situation. And I got to talk about Jack Flaherty. He's been absolutely vital to this pitching rotation. And by the way, Andy, I'm sure you were probably waiting for a fun fact today, weren't you?
Of course I am.
So,
Hank, hit me.
You know that his first start against the White Sox, he got his first loss of the season. But before that, we know he was 8-0. Let me ask you if you know, who was the last Cardinal pitcher to have such a start?
Is it your guy Bob Gibson?
You would be correct. 1965.
That's instantly who I go to. He was just so fucking good in the 60s. It was just like just take your pick of what year.
I know. I knew you'd appreciate that trivia question. That's why I had to go there. But anyways, let's talk about Jack Flaherty. I feel like he has carried that starting rotation now.
Oh, without question. You said it already. His first loss of the year was, this past weekend against the White Sox, or this past week, I should say, not weekend. He's 8-0. He has an ERA. Hold on. I have it pulled up right here. I'm sorry. Or I wrote it down. He has 8 wins, 2.84 ERA. So sub 3 ERA. He's shoving right now. Yeah. Like this was really the White Sox were really the first team that was able to get to him. And then it just so happened that, the Cardinals weren't able to hit the ball that day either. So, he is the anchor of this pitching staff. And he's going to have to be, you really, the stat I love here is his whip is down to 1.07. That has a great chance of getting that to a sub 1 whip. But look at his number 2. It's almost 40-year-old Adam Wainwright. Carlos Martinez hasn't been awful, 4.18 ERA. John Gant is a guy coming out of the bullpen that's had to step up into the rotation due to injuries of, Kim. Miles Michaelis has missed a lot of time. It just sucks how many injuries they have, and they're really working hard to try to sustain it, but it hasn't been great. They struggle to throw first pitch strikes. If you watch a Cardinal game, half the time it's going to be a fucking ball on the first pitch of the at bat. I think like some guys are down to like their first strike percentage is down as low as like 55%. That's not the whole team, but some guys that are throwing, like John Gant, for example. And I think that does have to do with him normally being in the bullpen and not used to throwing this many innings. He's getting a little more erratic, or maybe avoiding the zone a little bit more if he's seeing these lineups 2 or 3 times when he's really used to only seeing maybe 5 or 6 batters in an outing. But the real problem with this staff is the bullpen. They're on a historic rate, Hank, of their bullpen walk rate is at like 14.9, 15% right now. If that holds, be the worst in MLB history. Yeah, in 2000, the Pirates bullpen's walk rate was 14.4. That's the next closest. So there is a lot of time left in the season. It could change, but it's just like it's seriously something we've never seen before. They lead the league in walks per 9 innings with 4.63. a game. So it's just like it's almost unwatchable at certain points, man. Like in they are the worst in the major leagues as a staff in walk rate at 11.9. That's including everybody, the rotation and the bullpen. But it's just, yeah, it's not great. It's very frustrating, and you don't win games when you're putting 2 or 3 runners on base. You're giving 3 runners or two guys a free base. It just doesn't happen. That's how you set up runners in scoring position. That's how you set up these guys for bloop singles that turn into fucking RBIs. So, we have Alex Reyes, 14 saves. He's been, not too bad on the year.
Alex Reyes. Got a little comment for you. Our buddy Paul Lombardi.
Paul, I think he has potential to get there right now. I don't know. I mean, shit, 0.69 ERA. Very nice ERA, if I do say so myself. But so he struggled. Yeah. He blew a save this weekend against the Cubs after Wainwright absolutely threw a gem. I think he went 7 innings, only allowed 1 hit. The Cubs weren't touching anybody. I think Reyes ended up walking a couple guys, and then it was like a bloop and a black. And then he walked somebody, and then he hung a slider for Javier Baez, and he hit it just like dead center. And the Cardinals end up losing that game in overtime 2-1. At the same time, though, or in extra innings. I'm sorry, Hank.
I was going to say, football's not for another few months, buddy.
Listen. Speaking of that, I had Kyle Russo on the Brew Party this week, and he called the Larry O'Brien Trophy the Lombardi Trophy.
Hey,
we got football on the brain, but in extra innings, the Cardinals lose. In they ended up stranding the bases loaded earlier in the game. So it's not like the Cardinals weren't hitting and had opportunities. Ended up on Arenado struck out with 2 outs to end the inning. I think Goldschmidt hit a foul ball that was like a pop out. It just rough. And that's classic Cardinal baseball. My buddy Grant Baker actually made me laugh. I was on the phone with him earlier today, and he said he was trying to do research. He can't confirm this, but he swears to God over the past 5 years, the Cardinals have hit more solo home runs than anybody in baseball because they can't get anybody on base.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. So shout out to Grant for that one. But if we look at the team split, so as a team, we're hitting 232. On base of 305, slug 390, the OPS at 695. So the 232 is not great, but I mean how we've seen around baseball with how many no hitters we've seen, on record pace for their pitchers, just all around the league seem to just be shoving, after the past few seasons where it's are these balls juice, all these home runs and all these hits and all this stuff. Now it's kind of the year of the pitcher. I'm kind of curious about your thoughts on that. And then if we look at the or the pitching staff, team ERA of 3.76, which is not bad at all. And whip of 1.31, but it's just the walks. You're not going to beat teams if you're consistently giving them 4 free bases. They're giving 4 free bases a game. Which I think in the series with the Padres, they averaged 8 walks a game. It's just unsustainable. So it's amazing, honestly, that they're still in first place in this division.
Right.
And that kind of speaks to how bad the Central is this year.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, the Cubs are kind of on a little win streak here. They've been playing well as of late, but I mean, because their bullpen's actually performing, and they have, as much as I hate to say that,
the Pirates who can't even field. Did you see the Javi Baez play?
I mean, I sent that in the group.
I know.
That was incredible. Why did he stop? Okay, so if you guys didn't see it, it was like an infield single that right to the pitcher, throws it to the first baseman, and there's 2 outs. So all he had to do was step on first base. He decides to run and try to run in front of Javi Baez to tag him. Baez turns around. I guess I should mention there was a runner on second. So he's just going, obviously, on contact with 2 outs. He comes all the way around and scores because Javi Baez is juking them out. They miss the tag at the plate. They throw it to first, and it's a wild throw. Javi Baez gets to second base on a fucking like 2-foot hit, like a swinging bunt, pretty much. But that is Pirates baseball to a T. So, yeah, I see what I see what you're saying there. Cardinals are starting up a series with the Diamondbacks, who've lost 10 in a row. So hopefully we can keep that streak going for them. But it's like you want to be excited, and I'm trying not to be super negative because they are in first place. They're 5 games over 500 after the struggles that they've kind of had the past few seasons. Well, I say struggles. They went to the NLCS last year, but I mean, didn't think they were going to get there. They got swept? They got swept, or what? They won 1 game maybe. So
you're thinking about 2019. They got swept by the Nationals, but
yeah, exactly.
Again, it's okay. 2020 didn't necessarily happen, I guess. If you want
2020 doesn't count.
I totally feel you that way. In some respects to that.
So it's just like I'm trying to be excited. We're in first place, but it's like there are glaring holes on this team that need to be addressed. Is it either at the trade deadline, or is it either guys that we need to bring up from AAA or that are already in the system? I mean, like I said, Alex Reyes is a .69 ERA. Giovanni Gallegos has 10 holds on the year. He's been awesome. He's a guy. Thank you for that from the Yankees.
And thank you for Luke Voit in exchange.
I know, dude. It hurts so bad, but he's like the perfect Yankee, dude. He looks like a Yankees fan that gets to play on the team. You see, he's got his jersey all out. He's got the chains. He is an absolute tank. I love Luke Voit. No. But he had a cool story because he's from Missouri. He grew up a Cardinal fan, so it was really cool. And it did suck to see him go, but it's like you can't blame the Cardinals for taking Paul Goldschmidt there.
Of course.
And then it works out. You get Giovanni Gallegos. Chasen Shreve is garbage. He's on the Pirates now, actually. I think since he's left the Yankees, I think he's on his 3rd team in the 3 years since he's not been on the Yankees. So, yeah, like I said, I'm trying not to be negative, but it's hard when your bullpen is historically bad at walking people. And that's exactly the opposite of what you want your bullpen to do.
Yeah, no, Tyler Webb and Ryan Helsley are like a few of the guys. I was looking up the names of these bullpen guys because I don't watch as much Charles. Like I watch a little bit, but it's more because of guys like Nolan Arenado and Yadi Molina, who I'm fans of. But
I mean, I don't watch a lot of Yankees unless
that's fair. That's fair.
I feel like baseball is one of those sports where it is incredibly regional because especially with the blackouts and the lack of national television you get, it's like, I mean, you got all the people, I'm sure in New York, they're either watching the Yankees or the Mets. Like, why would they? I mean, obviously, there's fans of other teams. You
would have the MLB at Bat app like I have, where
and a lot of people do, and there are a lot of baseball fans that watch way more than I do, I'm sure. But there are cases where it's just like, oh, the Cardinals or the Cubs or the White Sox are on, at least where I'm at, and that's probably what I'm going to pay the most attention to.
Right now, anyways, getting back to the bullpen, so I think. The guys I was about to name, Tyler Webb and Ryan Helsley in particular, I think those are like the main culprits of that bullpen. I looked up their ERAs. Both of them.
I got it right here.
I had to look at the MLB page just to make sure I wasn't reading things with Webb's ERA. Am I reading this right? It's 11 point something.
11.57, my friend. 19 appearances. It's in 14 innings though, so it's not like a one time he got like rocked.
No. I know, but like that's one of those names that I'm seeing. Like I was looking at other Cardinals articles to talk to see like if they're really accurate, which a lot of them pretty much were.
Oh no, it is. It's accurate. Yeah, Tyler Webb 11.57. You have a guy in Andrew Miller who's he's on the IL right now. 8, like his ERA is over 8. And then Helsley, like you said, is 5.59 is the number I have. Cody Whitley's 6.10. They have Junior Fernandez. His ERA is over 7. Seth Elledge is over 7. So, and these guys aren't, everyday bullpen guys. They're not pitching all the time. Like if you watch a Cardinals game, I guarantee you're going to see Giovanni Gallegos and Alex Reyes out of the bullpen. You're probably going to see Genesis Cabrera and Helsley more than others, but it's normally those 4 guys. Tyler Webb has appeared in 19 games on the year. so he is like, I think the fifth most appearances out of the bullpen, but it's not great. I'll just say that it's not great.
as Joe Girardi, my old manager who I miss, used to say, it's not what you want.
No.
And it begs the question, like, if they can get enough, and speaking of St. Louis natives, since we mentioned Luke Voigt, if they can somehow pull off a deal where, say, they get Max Scherzer, here's an interesting solution. Do you move? Oh, wow, another hat change. Do you move John Gant to the bullpen permanently in that case? Or
100%. He should already be in the bullpen now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But there's another option. When is the time to call up? I believe his name, I think I wrote it down somewhere. It's Austin Warren. I think he's the big prospect they have that like they're high on with coming out of the bullpen. Is now the time to possibly call him out as not so much a look-see, but we need you to help out our bullpen see.
I mean, I don't hate it. Why not? There's so many injuries in the like you literally. I'll go down this list of guys that they have listed as pitchers. So Ponce de Leon has, he's only appeared in 8 games. Jordan Hicks has only appeared in 6 games. Woodford, Andrew Miller, Elledge, Michaelis is only pitched twice. Fernandez has only pitched one time. Well, I mean, he's a starting pitcher, but but
like, I'm considering the bad luck he had. Like, he had that one good year, but then he then declines significantly the next year. He misses 2020, and now after he tries to come back, he gets hurt. And mind you, this is all coming off a contract extension. Like, that's just rotten luck.
Right. And then, like I mentioned earlier, Kim missed time, so that's why Gant has had to step into the starting rotation. I mean, Gant's 1.81 ERA. I mean, that's mixed between the bullpen and starts, but you don't hate that. Like I mentioned, his first pitch strike rate, I think, is down to like 55%. And he's normally a guy that hits 70% or as high as 80%, I think, one year as far as first pitch strike. So is he, I don't know, is it the pitching coach? Is it the pitching, coaches that are having this philosophy where they're trying to more so avoid guys and throw it out of the zone, wanting guys to go chase? But it's not sustained. It's not going to be sustainable for a full season. So, I mean, I think, I wouldn't hate if they called up Warren. I mean, Matthew Liberatore is another guy that they're to watch. He's the guy they got from the Rays, like one of the Rays' top prospects.
Was that the Rosarena trade?
Yeah, that was the Rosarena trade. And
another one I know you love.
I love Randy. God damn, I miss Randy. He's a guy I was going to mention, one of the outfielders we dealt away that would have easily fit into this outfield. Like, it's just like some of their decisions goes back to Mozeliak, me not liking him. A lot of the stuff not making sense.
I remember when we first talked about the Cardinals too. I think maybe when I made my appearance on the Brew Party, you kind of sort of mentioned how you were like very anti Mozeliak too.
He'll probably have a job for life in St. Louis, to be honest with you.
It's kind of like how I feel about Brian Cashman too, actually.
Yeah.
Like he's made a lot of great moves, and just like Mozeliak, but like there have been a lot of other moves that he didn't make that have blown up in his face.
So now that's what I was mentioning with Arenado, is it's like how he finally made it, but it's like Cardinals fans, we've been asking for this for like 4 or 5 years.
And again, I know a thing or two about trading for a good player with a really hefty contract on the wrong side of 30. And I know very well that as much as Arenado can help you, that is also going to come back to hurt you. And don't say us Yankee fans who are still a little annoyed about Stanton didn't warn you about that.
One of my regulars at work, he is a big Yankee fan. He fucking hates Stanton every time. There's the $100 and whatever $million man coming up there to strike out, lead the league in strikeouts, but it's just like, wow. It's because, there was a few years ago where Stanton was, the home run king. Everybody wanted him. The Yankees got him. Was like, oh shit, okay. It's like, okay, you don't like the money that you're paying him, but you would be okay with it if he was, still in form, and it just hasn't worked out. It's another one. It's like, how long before the Yankees try to deal him away? But it's nobody's going to pay him.
Well, there is a little bit of a difference, though.
Mm-hmm.
At least when looking at Nolan Arenado, this is a guy who is a generational talent. Probably one of the best third basemen I've ever seen. And I'm not even exaggerating on that. Like, you don't really see too many like insanely good third basemen like come around. Like, let's put it this way. If you look at the debate between third basemen of all time, and I know I'm probably going on another baseball historical tangent, it starts with Mike Schmidt, Brooks Robinson, George Brett, and then it kind of stops there. Right now, Nolan Arenado could potentially enter like that debate. He's that good defensively and a good hitter, and seeing how much he's helping the Cardinals, that makes sense. Giancarlo Stanton, to quote George Lopez in an episode of the George Lopez show, he was a luxury, not a necessity, because we needed pitching. And you already had guys like Judge, and you had Castro, who you gave up in that trade. You had, who else? You had Didi Gregorius. A lot of those guys, they were mashing the ball. They almost made it to the World Series. You go out and get Stanton. That's like, say, if you were getting clothes shopping for your buddy Carson, instead of getting him the shoes he need, you're getting him a fur coat. Whereas at least with Arenado, you're getting something essential.
No, I feel you, man. It's I don't even know what to say about. I don't even know what to, like. I love the move. I was super excited because it puts us in the conversation as one of the better teams in the NL.
Exactly.
Not saying I don't think we're the best team in the NL by any stretch. Like, obviously you have the Dodgers, you have the Padres, who are having a really good year. I mean, I know the Braves have been kind of slumping, but I mean, if they're able to get hot, I think watch out for them. And then obviously Philly has a lot of weapons. I mean, do we see the Nationals kind of make a little resurgence? The Mets are they going to do? Are they going to do anything? Who knows? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. And of course, the Cubs, like, they could very well get hot as well. Like the NL Central is not set in stone. It's not. I don't want to say it's the Cardinals to lose. I think it's just anybody's to win. Like, anybody can jump out and grab this top spot there. And I don't know if we get a wild card team from the Central. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so.
I think the only division in the NL that's getting a wild card at this rate is the NL West.
Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong. The NL East has some really good teams. I briefly mentioned, the Braves are starting to pick it up. The Nationals have the talent. There's a reason that I actually hot take picked the Nationals to finish second in the division before the season. They still have a lot of good pitching. However, of course, if they start to go bad, there is the possibility that they could trade Max Scherzer. And do you think that's a legitimate possibility for the Cardinals? I kind of mentioned it briefly in one of my other questions, but I think wanted to go more into this topic.
I would love it. I mean, if he's available at the deadline and you're St. Louis, I don't know how you don't at least make a call.
Right.
You have to see at least what is the baseline offer. And because I mentioned it, we like our number 2 starter is 40 years old, Hank, or about to turn 40 years old. And I love Adam Wainwright. He's going to be a Cardinals Hall of Famer. He like him and Yadier Molina are, I mean, there's no, if you're a Cardinals fan, you can't beat it, having them as the battery. But you can't have a 40-year-old starter as your number 2 in this league. Is your 3 or 4, your 5, sure. I mean, preferably the 4 or the 5, but like I feel like at a certain point, you're just going to be asking too much out of the guy. His last outing, he was great. Like I mentioned, seven innings, 1 hit. But it's just, how much can you really ask of this guy? But to go and get a guy like Max Scherzer at the deadline, I mean, let's not act like his best years are ahead of him. But I mean, I'd much rather have a Jack Flaherty, Max Scherzer as my 1-2 for a potential playoff run than a Jack Flaherty and Adam Wainwright, if I'm being completely honest with you. But yeah, I think at the deadline, if a guy like Scherzer is there, just make a call. At least see what the offer, or like what you would have to send for him.
Right.
And if it's not the starters, go get another guy in the bullpen that's a stopper with Gallegos and Reyes.
Absolutely.
I think those, or an outfielder. I think those are the three things that you go for. And that all depends on the health of the outfield, because when healthy, I think it's fine.
Yeah,
but right now it's pretty it's pretty bleak, as you were mentioning earlier.
Now, let me ask you, are there any outfielders that you have your eyes on specifically come trade deadline, or is the list really not too big?
I mean, I think it's more so
Don Mozeliak just not paying attention to the foundation in that case.
I guess. I mean, as far like a list off the top of my head, not really. Like, I mean, who's going to be available? Yeah. Like, who wants out? As far as like an outfielder who's on the trade block, I don't know. But I mean, it'd be total Cardinals fashion to do nothing, and then just rely on these AAA dudes to just fill in.
Again,
like perfect
to that sort of
perfect world. Like you go get. And I don't know if the Indians would give up a guy like this, but like a Franmil Reyes.
Oh, that would. I would love that too, because that's a guy who, like, you don't need to worry is going to go all or nothing for a home run, which I've played about with the Yankees for many a year too. Sorry to get off on my team, but
no, absolutely.
We literally have similar problems, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
bro. So if that's just like a name, like a perfect. Like, what if, I'm not saying that's happening or any Cardinals fan should be expecting. And I know he's a guy that struggled with injuries this season, and I don't really know what the package would have to be, but I think he could fit into this offense pretty well. And like, he's not going to go all or nothing. He's going to a guy that can get on base or pretty much, I guess at the deadline, come talk to me. Any teams that are underperforming and trying to sell, I think the Cardinals should be looking into, but it like I said, it would be classic Cardinals fashion if they just do nothing and sit tight and just kind of hope that what they have is enough, which they've done for a few years. And because they know they're still going to sell tickets, St. Louis is still going to be top 3 in attendance or ticket sales every year. It doesn't matter. It's a baseball town. People are going to go to Busch Stadium to see the Cardinals, regardless of the product. And that's something Mozeliak and I believe this front office has taken advantage of, because they know they're still going to sell and they're still going to make money, regardless of who they fucking trot out there on the field, which that sometimes it sucks. This year, it's like, okay, you got Arenado, you made some moves. We like that. Full capacity at June 14th against the Marlins is coming back in St. Louis. That's going to be nuts. So yeah, I mean, go Cardinals. That's what I got to say. That's what I got to say, Hank.
Yeah, no, I think the Yankees also need outfield just as much as pitching. I mean, pitching for the Yankees, like, again, sorry to go off on a little tangent about
dude, it's your show. Don't apologize.
Pitching for them has been fine too, for the most part. I know, unfortunately, we just lost Kluber for a few months after the no-hitter. He had an arm problem, and so I definitely think the Yankees could use a guy like Scherzer. And in fact, if I'm going to go even further with my tangent, I've said this many times, and I'm going to say it on this show and be on record. If the Yankees had signed Max Scherzer when he was a free agent, they would have had at least a championship or two by now within the past 5 years. No joke. You can look at how it would have affected the Yankees and how much of a difference it would have made. Don't even try to argue with me on that point. But anyways, what I'm also trying to say is the outfield's been a problem. We're stuck with Hicks for like 7 years, and now he's not even playing. He's injured right now. I don't know when he's going to come back. And don't even get me started on Giancarlo. I've already gone on that rant a number of times, and as great as Judge is, like, it's a very home run or nothing ballpark. And while it's great to see Gardner still in the lineup, like, you still shouldn't necessarily be relying on a 39-year-old Brett Gardner in your everyday. No disrespect to Gardner. Your thoughts about Brett Gardner are the same way I feel about Adam Wainwright. Yeah, they're both 39. Yeah, we love them. We thank him for everything. Park. Exactly. There's like they're very similar. I know that like one's the outfield and one's a pitcher, but it's like the way the fan bases feel about them should be pretty much the same. It's like, thank you so much for everything you've given to the franchise, but maybe it's time to kind of step away, or maybe it's time for, management or the coaching staff to be like, okay, do we have any younger guys that we can throw? I mean, but if they're still performing, then yeah, sure. And I mean, I'm not going to come out here and say that Wainwright
has been awful this year because he hasn't been inconsistent, sure, but I mean, just not what I want.
I didn't even mention Clint Frazier, by the way. He's another guy that had potential, but he's been hot or cold. And gee, maybe you could have traded him and a lot of other prospects to get pitching, but nope. Cashman likes to hoard, worry about the future. Again, he's very hit or miss, trust me. But sorry, back to your point.
I kind of forgot what my point was, but yeah.
We're literally is what you're trying to say.
Baseball's a young game at this point. They're trying to get as young as possible and spend at the least amount of money as possible. So it's only a matter of time before we see these guys that are 39, 38, 37 that are, I don't want to say getting phased out of the game, but they're just not going to get paid as much. I will say I can 100% see the Yankees acquiring Max Scherzer before I see the Cardinals acquiring him, because that's just the Yankees. Like that's a guy that they would go get. But I mean, the connection, Scherzer went to Missouri. He's a St. Louis guy. I think it'd be great. And, Arenado's already said he loves St. Louis. It's a place that really embraces the players and really just loves baseball and loves the Cardinals. So I think Scherzer, it'd be a coming home party. I think the crowd would be absolutely insane for his first start. Right. But I think that's like a perfect world would have to happen. Did you see the Georgetown had their graduation at the Nationals Park, and he was in the outfield getting some work in?
I love that. That's awesome. Like, by the way, Max Scherzer, that's kind of another similar problem I've had too. Like 2017, Yankees had a chance to go after Justin Verlander. They didn't. Look how much that came back to hurt them. And if they get Max Scherzer, that would be a similar rant that I had when they got Arenado. It's like, great, you finally got your pitching, you finally signed Garrett Cole. It's like, why didn't you do this sooner? You could have had a title. But now, before I wrap up the show, I do have a few more questions. These aren't really as much about like the current Cardinals, more so as these are kind of nostalgic and fun questions. First of all, I got to ask you about Yadi Molina, just because we're talking about the Cardinals and because personally, from afar, I've always admired how good Yadi Molina was. He is by far the best defensive catcher I've ever seen, because keep in mind, I'm not really old enough to remember Pudgy Rodriguez's prime, and Buster Posey's up there, but like in terms of like defense, while Buster might be the better hitter, I would say Yadi's better defensively, but without a doubt.
Yadier Molina, Hall of Fame, first ballot. That's all I got to say. So everybody, I have so many Cubs fans. My friend Greg, who I've had on the show, and my friend Jimmy, they do a podcast about the Cubs minor league system called Growing Cubs for Cubs Insider. Go check that out. They do a lot of great work. But every time we talk about Yadier Molina being a Hall of Famer, they just like laugh in our face and say no. And they talk about his career batting average and the hitting numbers. But it's like in his career, did you see that stat? Like the Cardinals have allowed like the least amount of stolen bases in Major League Baseball, and like the next team is like 400 behind them. Like it's some ridiculous amount.
That's surprised.
It's because you don't steal on Yadi. He has his pop time is ridiculous. His instincts and his just baseball IQ is second to none, and that's why you're not going to see the pitching coach come out as much to talk to the pitchers when you watch Cardinals games, because they have Yadi back there. It's like he's been there. He's 38 years old. He's won 2 world championships. He's pitched with some of the best pitchers, or he's not pitched. He's caught for some of the best pitchers to ever do it. He's another coach out there on the field. So it just what he brings to this team is like you can't even put words to it. Like it's so valuable. And it's like the classic thing. It's like, would you trade Mike Trout for Yadier Molina? And fucking I guarantee you, like 80% of Cardinals fans would say no. And it's like that's how much he means to St. Louis. He will never buy a beer or a meal again in St. Louis when he retires. He's going to get a statue. I guarantee that. And it's just it's not only the way it's the way he plays, it's his attitude. He doesn't take shit from anybody. He's not afraid to stand up for his teammates or get into somebody's face when he thinks like they did him wrong, they did his teammates wrong. Like, I mean, the Brandon Phillips fight, like, do you remember that from years ago?
That was amazing.
Incredible. Or like this year, the whole scuffle with Nicholas Castellanos, who like he got in his face after the whole, like, I don't remember, if you remember it from earlier this year.
No, I remember, and it wasn't even after a drive into deep left field.
Yeah, deep left drive, be 4-0. Oh my God. All time.
You knew I had to bring that up when you mentioned his name.
I love it. I love that you brought that up, Hank. But yeah, even after getting like an argument with Yadi, Castellanos after the game was like, I mean, even if you punched me in the face, I'd still walk up to him after the game and ask him to sign a ball for me, like give me an autograph. Like, he goes, that's how much that's how much I respect him. But like you mentioned, he's the best defensive catcher. It's gonna be a hot take, I think, to ever play the game.
Wow. I mean, 9 gold gloves. 9 gold gloves gives you a good argument.
9.
And, like, I'm even surprised looking at it that he's won only 9.
And I mean,
so
just for that, I mean, you can knock what he's done at the plate and how it hasn't been great, but it's like this year at 38, he's hitting better than he did when he was 28. So it just like doesn't make sense. It like he's hitting like 280 this year, I think. I need to pull it up. I know he has missed some time with an injury, but he's a guy at 38. He wants to catch 140 games. He wants to be out there. He gets pissed off when he's missing games. He has this attitude, this leadership that he brings to the Card. He is the Cardinals. Like, he is the heart and soul of the St. Louis Cardinals when he is on the field. But it's just unmatched what he brings to this team mentally, behind the plate. And it's just incredible. Just hats off to him. Whenever he retires, it's going to be, I think he gets his number retired in St. Louis. Like, I think that's
no doubt.
That's just how much he means to the city. He's hitting 288 right now. Yadier Molina's hitting 288.
That's like me when Jeter and Rivera retired, and basically when also when Bernie Williams left too, because I think that guy was criminally underrated. But anyways, yeah, I totally agree. I love Yadi as well. He's absolutely phenomenal. And by the way, actually, there was one other question I forgot to ask you about the competition. Who is the team that you fear the most?
As a Cardinals fan,
right now for the division and for competing in the NL, because obviously, as I kind of mentioned, the NL West is stacked. The Padres with Tatis and Machado and a decent pitching staff are good, and I still think the Dodgers have a good shot at overtaking them. Both of them are extremely loaded. It's not even fair.
Yeah. So in the division, you fear the Cubs the most. If you're the Cardinals, you hate losing to the Cubs. It's the same way. If you're the Cubs, you hate losing to the Cardinals, and you love to beat them. And it's always that, especially when they're the top 2 teams, or at least right now they're the top 2 teams in the division. There's nothing like that. I don't know if you've ever been to a Cubs Cardinals game. I'd love to take you to one, Hank. It would be it's incredible. That's you always fear them. But then as far as the rest of the NL goes, I mean, the Dodgers is the obvious answer here for me. They're just fucking loaded. Clayton Kershaw, Trevor Bauer, Walker Buehler. They don't have Dustin May right now, but when he's healthy, he looks like he's going to be really good. But they can go with just those 3 guys the entire playoffs, like a 3-man rotation. They're going to be really hard to beat. Obviously, the Padres are really fun and out there in Slam Diego, with Tatis, and they have Machado, Eric Hosmer, Will Myers, and then the addition of Blake Snell into their rotation, along with Lamet and all those other guys. So I think the West is going to put 2 teams in the playoffs. But yeah, so I hate to say I'm scared of the Cubs, but it's just there's always this feeling, just like you get nervous. You get nervous playing them, and one of them hits a fucking bomb, and you're just like, oh, here we go. It's always how you feel. But as far as the season going on down to the playoffs, it's like if we get matched up with the Dodgers or the Padres, not excited about that. I will say I also hate playing the Braves two of my best friends, Tate and Chris Long. They were my former roommates. They're brothers.
Right.
They were born in Savannah, moved up to Illinois when they were young, but they're just diehard Braves fans. So whenever we play, like I always just have to hear about how fucking awesome the Braves are, and Freddie Freeman and Ronald Acuna Jr. and all that stuff. So yeah.
All right. So this is kind of to piggyback off the Yadi Molina question, but Albert Pujols himself said that Yadi was by far the most dispensable Cardinal of all time. And now, speaking of Albert Pujols, because every time we talk about the Cardinals, it always goes back to him right at the end, I feel like. Because remember that meme I sent you about the ball on the moon and how I joked with that it was the home run hit off Brad Lidge in 05? How weird is it that he's wearing a Dodger uniform this year?
It's gross. Is what it is. It's just like, he doesn't look right in the Dodger blue. He's wearing number 55. It's just like, it'll be one of those classic pictures you get of those like long tenured athletes in another team's jersey, like the Ewing in like a Sonics jersey, or I'm trying to think of
Willie Mays on the Mets, Hank Aaron Brewers.
Right. Or I'm trying to think of like an example in football, something that doesn't look like, or like, like
LA Rams.
Yeah. Or like Brett Favre in like a Jets jersey or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just like, it doesn't feel right. All the best to him. I mean, he's a classic Cardinal. I think I saw him hit 2 home runs one time, actually coincidentally against the Angels when I was a little kid. Wow. And Jared Weaver was on the mound. I was like 6 rows behind the Angels dugout. I caught a ball from the catcher flipped up that actually struck out Chris Duncan, which was really cool. But that's like the one memory I have of Albert burned in my brain, because when we walked in, one of the ushers was like, "Tell him we need number whatever home run today," and he hit 2, and it was like, holy shit. So he's all time. He's another guy that's probably going to get a statue in St. Louis. Absolutely. When he left, ultimate bad taste in your mouth, like as a Cardinals fan, just kind of just like, fuck that guy, just because he talked about he wanted to end his career in St. Louis. He said all this. He said it wasn't about the money. I believe the Cardinals offered him 7 years. I don't know what the actual number was, but then LA offers him 10 years and some ridiculous amount. It's like you can't blame him for taking that when you step back and look at it, but it's just like, what could have been, I guess, if he had stayed in St. Louis, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much different it really would have been. But I'm glad that he's still able to play baseball, and I'm glad, he found a spot. There were reports that he was interested in coming back to St. Louis in kind of like a mentorship role. Right. And, he would be okay with not playing every day, which obviously, he's not going to play over Paul Goldschmidt at this point of his career. But
and
you just talk.
He doesn't solve your outfield problems either. So as much as you would have loved him, that's
right. Like if the Cardinals play in the American League, sure, you can come and play DH.
That's a rant for another day, but every league should have the DH. But
I like that as well. I wouldn't mind it. But you just look at his like 10-year run with the Cardinals. Like if you had never go look up his stats from his like first 10 years in the league.
I have seen them.
Absolutely ridiculous. Like
330 every year, 30 like at least 30 plus home runs and like 110 RBIs. Disgusting.
He was untouchable. He was the best player in baseball for those 10 years.
The real thing I find hard to believe. He won only 3 MVPs, but then again, Barry Bonds may have cheated his way to so it's not as surprising, really, when you think about it. But still.
That's a conversation for another day.
Exactly. And last but not least, before I end the show and let you go, as you probably know, one of the things on my bucket list is to see every single major league ballpark. I have to ask you, what's Busch Stadium like? Is that good? And do you like it? Do you still miss the old Busch Stadium at all? Because I've heard a lot of people say that they never should have gotten rid of the old one, and I've also heard a lot of people say they like the new one. It's kind of a mixed opinion about it.
The new one's beautiful, man. Yeah. Cardinals fans, they call it baseball heaven. We're very fucking full of ourselves. And
so did Scott Rowland, I remember.
Yeah,
when he got traded out of Philadelphia.
I mean, people love it's a great place to see a game. Directly across the street, it's called Ballpark Village. It's got like 4 or 5 different bars and restaurants in it. They do a bunch of pregame stuff there. They hold events. They've got a bunch of screens. It's like it's all really, close together. But I love it. As far as the Old Bush goes, it got really, really fucking hot in there.
Right.
They had the awning around the top, but it didn't necessarily cover the whole stadium. And I'm not saying it doesn't get hot as shit still in St. Louis at the New Bush Stadium, because it does. Yeah. But I only went to the Old Bush a handful of times. And I was younger, so I don't really remember. I do remember seeing a game in Old Bush. I don't remember. I can't tell you what year this would be, but up in the upper decks, the Cardinals were playing Twins. And me and my buddies were trying to guess balls and strikes from the upper deck. But I mean, if you ever get the opportunity, go see a game in St. Louis. It's a great time. There's no view obstructions. There's not a bad seat in the house. You can sit in the bleachers. You can sit behind the plate. You can sit in the left field terrace, the right field terrace, the outfield box, whatever you want to call it. But it is a beautiful, beautiful ballpark, beautiful place. I love to go see a game at Wrigley as well.
Me too. That's high on my bucket list.
No, I've been there. I usually go to Wrigley about once a year. So I usually go to at least one game of Wrigley, one game of Busch a year, if I can. But obviously with, the pandemic, I haven't been. I think I went in 2019. I think I went to a game in 2019. But yeah, I mean, Wrigley's great. It's just like a classic ballpark. If you're a baseball fan, go. Wrigleyville is electric before the game. There are just a million little bars and little restaurants you can go sit in. There's Cubs fans everywhere. There's this atmosphere. It's the friendly confines. Make sure you get a seat that doesn't have a view obstruction, because that can't happen. It's an old stadium. There have been a few times where I've had to, like kind of crink my neck or look or stand up or something. But it's great. I love to go see a game at Wrigley. I've been to the White Sox Stadium back when it was U.S. Cellular Field. Once.
I think of it as New Comiskey.
Yeah.
I can't do it with these corporate names. I know I kind of sound like old.
Guaranteed rate field, baby.
I can't do it with these corporate sometimes.
No, I mean, I completely understand. And I think I've been to Milwaukee back when it was still Miller Park. Now it's like American Family or something.
What?
So yeah, I think next on my list, I'm trying to complete the NL Central first. So I want to go to Cincinnati, and I'd love to go to Pittsburgh for a game, because I heard that's I heard PNC is just fucking great. And
a lot of the ballparks you mentioned are on my bucket list too. Fenway is a good one. That's pretty old, and it kind of has some of the same problems at Wrigley, but definitely go to that at least once. Yankee Stadium, while as much as I miss the old one, the new one, I think they did a good job replacing the old one with the new one, and Citi Field's a pretty solid one too, for sure. But my favorite, of course, is Camden Yards in Baltimore. I think that one has an old school feel, but like it's one of the newer ballparks. It's got